Okay, so like imagine this, picture this. What if we could like predict a flood, before a single drop of rain fell? Or we knew exactly when and where a drought would hit before the land even started to dry out. Sounds kind of crazy,
Yeah,
right?
hands on.
But what if I told you this wasn't some like sci-fi movie, but the actual potential of AI to totally like revolutionize how we deal with climate change?
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into this article by Sendi Ardiencia on Medium, and it explores just that, how AI might be like the secret weapon that we need to tackle this global challenge.
It's a super fascinating area of research, and it's honestly incredible to see how quickly we're moving from just like theory to actual real world applications.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking real world, this article kicks off with some surprisingly relatable examples. They talk about train accidents in Indonesia caused by tracks buckling under extreme heat, coastal towns like in Sukabumi dealing with those high tides that are messing with tourism and fishing, even the spread of diseases like dengue fever linked to changing mosquito life cycles because of, warming temperatures.
Wow.
These might seem like isolated incidents, but when you connect all the dots, it paints a pretty clear picture of a changing climate hitting way closer to home than we realize.
Totally. You're right. It
Ah.
really highlights how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
Like climate change isn't some distant threat. You know,
Yeah.
it's woven into these everyday events impacting people's lives in very real ways.
And those impacts are only going to become more severe, right?
Hmm.
The article points out some predictions that are honestly kind of alarming. Like the World Health Organization estimates an extra 250,000 deaths every single year due to climate change by 2050.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just our health. The Food and Agriculture Organization warns that we could see a 10% drop in global food production. That's huge.
It really underscores the urgency of the situation. Like we're at a critical point where the decisions we make today will have a ripple effect for generations to come.
So we're facing this monumental challenge. But even with these kind of alarming statistics, there's a glimmer of hope. And that's where AI comes in. Imagine being able to analyze mountains of climate data spotting patterns and connections that would take us humans decades to unravel. That's what AI is amazing at, right?
Absolutely. AI can process information on a scale we can only dream of. It's like having a superpowered detective working 24/7 to identify those subtle clues within the data, revealing insight that would otherwise remain hidden.
Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? The article talks about using AI to predict extreme weather events with way more accuracy than we can currently manage. Like,
Yeah.
if we could anticipate floods, droughts, or storms ahead of time, think of the lives we could save, the resources we could protect.
Exactly. And this isn't just theoretical. The article highlights Indonesia's National Research and Innovation Agency, they call it BRIN-NN, which has developed a system called Kamajaya.
Okay.
Now, Kamajaya uses AI to create super sophisticated seasonal prediction models, which are already being used to improve disaster preparedness and resource management. It's like having a crystal ball, but powered by data and algorithms.
Wait, hold on, algorithms. For those of us who aren't like tech geniuses, could you break down exactly how AI uses these algorithms to make such accurate predictions?
Of course, think of an algorithm as a set of instructions, like a recipe for, say, a cake. But instead of baking a cake, these instructions tell the AI how to analyze massive amounts of data looking for patterns and relationships.
Okay.
So in Kamishaya's case, it's crunching historical climate data, satellite imagery, even things like soil moisture levels, and using those patterns to predict future weather events.
So it's like teaching a computer to recognize the warning signs of a storm before it even forms. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But predicting extreme weather is just one piece of the puzzle, right? The article also mentions AI playing a big role in how we manage energy, especially with the shift towards renewable sources like solar and wind.
You're totally right. Renewables are fantastic alternatives to fossil fuels, but their reliability can fluctuate. The sun isn't always shining, and the wind isn't always blowing, which can create challenges for maintaining a stable power grid. But this is where AI steps in.
By acting as a sort of intelligent conductor for the power grid.
Precisely. AI can analyze data from weather patterns, energy demand, and grid performance to optimize the distribution and storage of renewable energy.
Huh.
Think of it like a super smart traffic system directing the flow of energy to where it's needed most, ensuring a consistent supply even when the source itself is intermittent.
That's a game changer, especially as we transition to a future powered by cleaner energy sources. But AI's potential goes beyond just predicting weather and managing energy right. What about tracking something like carbon emissions?
You know, you're right on track with that thought. Imagine like being able to monitor those carbon emissions in real time. Not just the overall output, but actually being able to pinpoint the specific sources. The factories, the power plants, even individual cars that are the biggest offenders.
It'd be like having a giant magnifying glass, zooming in on exactly where we need to focus our efforts to reduce emissions most effectively.
Exactly. And with AI analyzing those emissions patterns alongside things like how much energy we're using in industrial processes, we could develop really targeted and effective strategies for decarbonization.
This is all starting to sound less like a far-off dream and more like something that could happen really soon. But the article also brings up something that I think is often overlooked in these conversations about climate change, the impact on our health.
Yeah, it's a really crucial connection. Climate change isn't just an environmental issue, it's a public health crisis in the making. And as the article points out, it's already impacting people's well-being in ways we're only beginning to understand.
There's that interconnectedness again, right? Like the article mentions those studies linking air pollution to a decline in brain function and even an increased risk of mental health problems.
Exactly. And think about the displacement of communities because of rising sea levels or those extreme weather events, the trauma, the loss of homes and jobs, the strain on mental health. It's all interconnected.
So climate change is kind of like a threat multiplier, making things that are already bad even worse and creating new problems too.
Exactly. And that's why addressing climate change is about so much more than just reducing carbon emissions. It's about building a more just and equitable world for everyone.
And that's where AI's potential becomes even more important, right?
Yeah.
If we use it strategically and ethically, it can help us tackle these really complex, interwoven challenges in ways we never thought possible. Like imagine if AI could help us design cities that are not only resilient to climate change, but also promote well-being and social equity.
It's a really exciting thought, isn't it? The article highlights how AI can monitor the health of our ecosystems using things like satellite imagery to track things like deforestation patterns and analyze the impact of warming oceans on marine life.
It's like having a global checkup for the planet using AI to diagnose the problems and come up with targeted solutions.
And not just solutions for the environment, but for the people and communities most affected by climate change. The article talks about using AI to improve disaster relief efforts, making them more efficient, optimizing resource allocation, and ensuring that help gets to those who need it most after a climate-related disaster.
So we're taking this incredibly powerful technology and using it to help us respond better to the very real human cost of climate change.
It's about building resilience both for our planet and for ourselves. We're talking about using AI to develop things like drought-resistant crops to fight food shortages or design buildings that can withstand more extreme weather events.
Instead of just surviving climate change, we're talking about actually thriving in the face of it. That requires a totally different way of thinking.
I completely agree. It's not about clinging to the past or trying to return to how things used to be. It's about making a new path where sustainability and innovation go hand in hand, powered by technology and human ingenuity.
And recognizing that we have the power to shape our future.
Exactly. The future isn't predetermined. It's something we actively create through our choices and our actions. And while there are definitely challenges ahead, seeing this convergence of AI and climate action offers a glimmer of hope in what can feel like a very uncertain time.
It's a good reminder that even when faced with these massive global challenges, human ingenuity coupled with our capacity for collaboration can lead to some pretty incredible breakthroughs.
It really is. We all have a role to play in shaping the future we want to see. It's not about waiting for someone else to solve it. It's about each of us stepping up and doing what we can.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into AI and its potential in combating climate change, what would you say are the most important takeaways for our listeners?
First and foremost, don't get overwhelmed. Yes, the statistics can be daunting, but it's important to remember there's still time to act. We're not powerless in this fight.
That's a really important point, you know. It's easy to just get discouraged when you hear all this, doom and gloom about climate change. But we can't let ourselves just get paralyzed by it, right? Like, action is the antidote to despair, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that kind of brings me to my second takeaway. Working together is key. We can't solve a global challenge like climate change alone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It requires everyone to get on board. Governments, industries, researchers, everyone working together, sharing resources and ideas.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly. We need to be united to tackle this. And that leads to my final takeaway, which brings us back to the heart of this deep dive. The power of technology, specifically AI, We have access to these amazing tools, and it's really up to us to use them responsibly and strategically to drive innovation and speed up our efforts.
It's about recognizing the opportunity we have right now to use these advancements for good.
Exactly. The article wraps up with a call to action that really stuck with me. It's not enough to just know about the problem we have, to turn that knowledge into action. We need to turn what we know into real steps towards a more sustainable future.
So it's about moving beyond just talking about climate change and actually doing something about it, right?
Exactly, and that's what I find so inspiring about all of this. Yes, the challenges are huge, but so is our ability to innovate and work together. The future isn't set in stone. It's something we create through the choices we make today.
It's a really powerful reminder that we're not just along for the ride on this planet, we're the ones building our own future. And with tools like AI, we have the potential to make that future more sustainable, more equitable, and maybe even more hopeful than we can imagine right now.
I couldn't agree more. It's about owning our agency, our responsibility, and our power to create positive change.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot from the scary realities of climate change to the amazing potential of AI to help us navigate this new territory.
Yeah, we have.
As always, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking those tough questions about how we can build a better future for ourselves and everyone that comes after us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.